UN.Relief Chief announces emergency funds for Pakistan flood victims. Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to address a matter of grave urgency and global solidarity: Pakistan's devastating floods and the emergency support being extended to its victims. The recent floods in Pakistan have brought with them unprecedented levels of destruction, leaving behind a trail of loss and despair. Millions of people have been forced to leave their homes as floodwaters swept through entire villages and towns. Families that once lived in stability now face the harsh reality of displacement, with their houses destroyed and their belongings lost to the raging waters. Infrastructure such as bridges, roads, and communication networks has also been severely damaged, making it even more difficult to reach those in urgent need of help. As floodwaters rose, entire communities were cut off from access to basic necessities. Families found themselves without clean drinking water, food supplies, and proper shelter. Children and the elderly, in particular, have suffered the most as malnutrition, exhaustion, and exposure to the elements threaten their survival. With schools and health facilities damaged or submerged, many are left without access to education and medical care. The disruption of daily life has left millions vulnerable, dependent on emergency aid for survival. In response to this critical situation, emergency funds have been set aside to bring immediate relief to the affected areas. These resources are meant to provide life-saving supplies such as food, tents, medicines, and hygiene kits. The first priority is to ensure that displaced families have shelter and enough nourishment to withstand these difficult times. This financial support will also enable aid organizations to act swiftly, delivering help to the most remote regions where people are stranded without hope. Special care is being taken to address the needs of those most at risk. Women, children, and the elderly often bear the heaviest burden in times of disaster. For them, access to medical care, safety, and proper nutrition is critical. Emergency assistance is being tailored to safeguard their health and dignity, ensuring they are not left behind in the relief efforts. By focusing on the most vulnerable groups, the relief mission ensures that compassion remains at the heart of recovery. Healthcare remains one of the greatest challenges in flood-hit regions. Hospitals and clinics have been overwhelmed, and many have lost vital equipment or have been damaged by floodwaters. The risk of disease outbreaks looms large as stagnant water breeds illness, making clean water and sanitation top priorities. Part of the emergency funds will be directed toward restoring medical services, supplying medicines, and providing vaccinations to prevent epidemics that could further devastate communities already struggling to survive. While immediate relief is crucial, long-term recovery must also be kept in mind. The floods have destroyed crops and washed away livestock, leaving farmers without a livelihood. Schools have been damaged, disrupting education for thousands of children. The funds will also contribute to rebuilding infrastructure, restoring agriculture, and supporting education, allowing families to rebuild their lives step by step. These measures are essential not only for survival but also for restoring hope and dignity to those who have lost everything. Finally, this tragedy is a reminder of the wider challenges that nations face in a world increasingly affected by climate change. Disasters of this scale call for international cooperation and collective responsibility. By coming together to help Pakistan during this crisis, the global community sends a powerful message of solidarity and compassion. Beyond relief, there is an urgent need to prepare for the future by building resilience, investing in sustainable solutions, and ensuring that no community faces such devastation alone. Through unity and support, Pakistan can recover and rebuild stronger than before. Entire communities in Pakistan have been cut off as the devastating floods continue to spread destruction. Villages that once thrived are now submerged, leaving people stranded without access to the outside world. Many families are isolated with no means of communication, unable to call for help or reach safety. This separation has created an atmosphere of fear and helplessness as people wait for rescue and relief in the midst of uncertainty. The scale of the disaster has overwhelmed local resources, making international support more vital than ever. One of the most pressing issues faced by these communities is the lack of clean drinking water. As floodwaters contaminated wells and water sources, families have been left with no safe supply. This increases the risk of waterborne diseases, which can spread rapidly in crowded shelters. The absence of clean water has become a daily struggle, forcing many to rely on unsafe sources just to survive. Addressing this crisis is one of the most urgent needs in the affected regions. Food has also become scarce for countless families. Flooded farmland has destroyed crops, and washed-away livestock has deprived many of their main sources of nourishment. Supply chains have been disrupted as roads and bridges have collapsed, preventing the delivery of essential food items. Without proper nutrition, children and elderly people face the greatest danger. Relief efforts are working to provide food packages, but the demand is immense, and the need continues to grow. Shelter remains another major challenge in the aftermath of the disaster. Thousands of houses have collapsed, leaving families exposed to harsh conditions with no roof over their heads. Makeshift tents have been set up in some areas, but they are not enough to accommodate the massive numbers of displaced people. For those who lost everything overnight, rebuilding their lives will take not just weeks or months, but years. Emergency shelters must be established to provide safety and comfort to those who have nowhere else to go. Medical assistance is also in short supply as hospitals and clinics in flood-hit areas are either damaged or unable to cope with the influx of patients. Injuries caused by collapsing structures, infections from contaminated water, and diseases spreading in overcrowded camps all require immediate attention. Many people cannot reach medical facilities at all due to damaged roads and lack of transportation. Ensuring proper health care for these communities has become a critical mission for aid organizations. The isolation of entire regions has also created psychological trauma for survivors. Families separated from loved ones, children witnessing destruction, and communities losing their livelihoods all suffer immense emotional stress. Relief efforts must not only provide material aid but also focus on mental health support. Hope and encouragement are as necessary as food and medicine, giving people the strength to endure and rebuild after such a life-altering tragedy. Despite the immense suffering, the response of humanitarian groups offers a ray of hope. Teams are working tirelessly to reach cut-off areas with boats, helicopters, and emergency supplies. The resilience of the affected communities, combined with national and international support, is a reminder that even in the darkest times, unity and compassion can light the way forward. It will take time, effort, and resources, but with continued assistance, these communities can rise from despair and move toward recovery. In recognition of the dire situation created by the floods, emergency funds have been mobilized to provide quick and effective relief to the people of Pakistan. The devastation has been so severe that local resources alone are not enough to respond to the magnitude of this disaster. The allocation of emergency financial assistance is designed to bridge that gap, allowing urgent action to take place where it is needed most. Without this support, millions would continue to suffer in silence, cut off from the essentials that sustain life. This effort is not just about money but about saving lives and restoring hope to those who feel abandoned by circumstances beyond their control. These funds are intended to ensure that relief supplies reach people in the hardest-hit regions, including areas that are difficult to access due to damaged roads and bridges. Boats, helicopters, and other means of transportation are being used to deliver aid to families stranded in remote villages. Quick distribution is a top priority, as delays could cost lives. Food, water, medicines, and temporary shelters must be delivered within hours and days, not weeks. The speed of this operation demonstrates how vital emergency funds are in tackling such a humanitarian crisis. Beyond transportation and logistics, the funds are being used to purchase essential supplies. Families in affected areas require food parcels, clean drinking water, clothing, and basic household goods to survive each day. Hygiene kits are also being distributed to prevent the outbreak of diseases in overcrowded camps and temporary shelters. Without these basic supplies, life becomes unbearable for those already burdened by loss. By covering these urgent needs, the relief effort offers a lifeline to millions who are struggling to cope with the aftermath of disaster. The funds also help provide temporary shelter for displaced families who have lost their homes. Thousands of tents and makeshift structures are being set up to protect people from rain, sun, and cold nights. These shelters may be simple, but they provide a sense of safety and dignity to those who suddenly found themselves homeless. Having a roof, however temporary, offers a small measure of comfort and stability, allowing families to gather together in safety while they wait for longer-term recovery efforts to take shape. Medical services are another critical area supported by the emergency fund. With hospitals damaged and local clinics overwhelmed, additional resources are required to deliver medicines, vaccines, and mobile health units. Many people are suffering from injuries, infections, and waterborne diseases, and the funds are helping ensure that they receive timely treatment. Mobile teams are visiting remote areas to provide care, offering not only physical healing, but also reassurance that help has not forgotten them in their time of need. The funds are also directed toward the welfare of the most vulnerable groups, including women, children, and the elderly. These groups often face unique challenges in disaster situations, such as access to maternal health services, child nutrition, and support for those who cannot care for themselves. Relief programs supported by emergency funds are designed to ensure that these groups are not left behind. Special food packages, safe spaces for women and children, and targeted medical assistance are all part of this effort, showing a commitment to protect the most at risk. Finally, the release of emergency funds sends a powerful message of solidarity to the people of Pakistan. It demonstrates that the world recognizes their suffering and is prepared to act. While money cannot replace lost lives or homes, it can help soften the immediate pain and begin the process of recovery. It is a reminder that even in times of despair, humanity is capable of compassion and unity. The funds provide the foundation for both immediate survival and the longer journey of rebuilding lives, livelihoods, and communities in the aftermath of one of the worst natural disasters in the nation's history. These funds are aimed at supplying life-saving essentials that can help families survive in the immediate aftermath of the floods. Food distribution is one of the most urgent needs, as millions of people have been left without crops, livestock, or access to markets. Many households are surviving on little or nothing each day, and children in particular are at risk of malnutrition. The provision of food packages ensures that families receive the calories and nutrients they need to endure this difficult time while longer-term recovery plans are being organized. Without this immediate support, hunger would quickly become a second crisis following the destruction caused by the floods. Another vital use of these funds is the provision of tents and temporary shelter. Countless homes have been washed away, and people are forced to sleep in the open under harsh weather conditions. Shelter is not just about having a roof overhead, it is about providing safety, privacy, and dignity to families who have lost everything. Tents allow parents to gather their children in one secure space and protect them from rain, sun, and insects. By supplying temporary structures, these funds create a sense of stability in a time when uncertainty dominates daily life. Clean drinking water is equally important, as many wells, pipelines, and water storage facilities have been contaminated by floodwaters. When clean water becomes scarce, waterborne diseases such as cholera and diarrhea spread quickly, threatening the lives of children and the elderly. Emergency funds make it possible to distribute bottled water, purifying tablets, and portable filtration systems to families who would otherwise be forced to drink unsafe water. Providing clean water not only saves lives, but also prevents outbreaks that could overwhelm fragile health systems already stretched by the disaster. Medicines are another essential that these funds make available to the affected community. With hospitals damaged and supplies running out, many flood victims are left without treatment for common illnesses and injuries. The funds allow aid organizations to distribute antibiotics, pain relievers, vaccines, and other critical medicines. They also support mobile clinics that can reach isolated villages where people are unable to travel to medical centers. Timely medical intervention prevents minor illnesses from becoming life-threatening and ensures that communities are not further weakened by preventable diseases. In addition to food, water, shelter, and medicines, hygiene kits are being distributed to help families maintain basic cleanliness. These kits often include items such as soap, sanitary pads, toothbrushes, and disinfectant. In crowded temporary shelters, poor hygiene can quickly lead to outbreaks of disease, particularly among children. By giving families the means to stay clean, the funds help protect not only their physical health, but also their sense of dignity during a time of extreme hardship. Hygiene support is an often overlooked but critical part of relief efforts. The combination of these essentials, food, tents, clean water, medicines, and hygiene supplies, forms the backbone of any emergency response. They address immediate survival needs, while also reducing the risks of long-term suffering. Without them, families would be left to face hunger, exposure, disease, and despair all at once. By covering these critical areas, the funds ensure that relief is not fragmented but comprehensive, giving victims the chance to endure the crisis and slowly rebuild their lives. These life-saving supplies also represent a message of solidarity from the wider world. For families who have lost everything, receiving a food parcel, a tent, or clean water is not only about survival but also about knowing that they are not forgotten. Each essential item delivered through these funds carries with it a promise of compassion and humanity. It reassures the victims that they are not alone in their suffering, and that the global community stands beside them in their darkest hour. This spirit of unity and support is just as important as the material aid itself, as it gives people the strength to hold on to hope. women, children, and the elderly are always among the most vulnerable when natural disasters strike, and the floods in Pakistan have been no exception. These groups often have fewer resources to protect themselves and face greater risks when displaced from their home. In times of crisis, women may lose access to maternal health services, children are left without the stability of school and safe shelter, and the elderly struggle with limited mobility and chronic health conditions. Relief programs supported by emergency funds are designed to prioritize their needs so that they do not suffer more deeply than others. For women, the floods have created unique hardships. Many are responsible for caring for their children and elderly relatives, while also dealing with the loss of their homes and livelihoods. Without proper facilities, they face challenges in maintaining hygiene and privacy in crowded shelters. Emergency assistance includes safe spaces for women, the provision of sanitary products, and access to maternal and reproductive health care. These measures help safeguard women's dignity and protect them from additional risks, such as illness or exploitation during displacement. Children are among the most severely affected by disasters of this scale. Displacement has forced millions of children out of school, disrupting their education and leaving them without the stability that classrooms provide. Malnutrition and disease also pose a serious threat to their health, as they are more susceptible to illness than adults. Relief efforts supported by the funds include providing child-friendly spaces where children can access food, medical care, and emotional support. By focusing on children, these programs ensure that an entire generation does not grow up defined solely by loss and hardship. The elderly face challenges of a different kind. Many older people rely on medications for chronic conditions such as diabetes or high blood pressure, and these are often difficult to access during emergencies. Limited mobility makes it difficult for them to evacuate or reach aid distribution points. Relief efforts are therefore prioritizing the delivery of medicines and transportation support for older adults, ensuring that they are not left behind when help arrives. By acknowledging their needs, the relief programs help protect the wisdom and experience that the elderly bring to their communities. Nutrition programs have also been designed to focus on vulnerable groups. Women and children require specific dietary support, such as high-protein supplements and fortified foods, to recover from malnutrition and remain healthy. The funds make it possible to provide these targeted food supplies, ensuring that families do not rely solely on basic staples. This kind of specialized care helps prevent long-term health problems and reduces the risk of child stunting or maternal complications in the months to come. Healthcare teams working in flood-affected areas are paying special attention to vaccination campaigns and maternal health services. Vaccinating children against preventable diseases is critical in crowded shelters where outbreaks can spread quickly. Mobile clinics are also offering prenatal and postnatal care for mothers, reducing the risks associated with childbirth during displacement. For the elderly, mobile teams are distributing medicines for chronic conditions and conducting health checks to catch illnesses early. These measures go beyond immediate relief and build a foundation for long-term resilience. Prioritizing women, children, and the elderly in disaster relief is more than a moral responsibility, it is an essential part of effective recovery. These groups represent the core of every community, carrying forward its future and preserving its past. By ensuring their protection, the emergency funds not only save lives, but also safeguard the social fabric that binds communities together. When women feel safe, children are cared for, and the elderly are respected, recovery becomes possible for all. This approach shows that compassion and practical action can work hand in hand, even in the face of overwhelming tragedy. The floods in Pakistan have left the health system under enormous strain, with hospitals and clinics either damaged, destroyed, or overwhelmed by the sudden influx of patients. Communities that once had basic access to medical care now find themselves without doctors, nurses, or functioning facilities. The disaster has not only injured thousands, but has also created conditions where diseases can spread quickly. Emergency funds are therefore being directed toward restoring health services so that people in affected regions can receive the treatment they urgently need. One of the most immediate challenges is the lack of medicines and medical supplies. Floodwaters have destroyed pharmacies, swept away storage facilities, and blocked supply routes, leaving health workers unable to provide even the most basic care. Emergency resources are being used to restock hospitals and clinics with antibiotics, vaccines, pain relievers, and essential equipment. This rapid resupply helps stabilize patients and ensures that doctors and nurses are not left powerless in the face of overwhelming need. Mobile health units have also become a lifeline for isolated communities that cannot reach larger hospitals. These units, funded through emergency resources, travel to remote villages and temporary shelters to provide care on the ground. They offer first aid for injuries, treatment for infections and vaccinations to prevent the spread of preventable diseases. For many families cut off by collapsed roads and flooded areas, these mobile clinics are their only chance of receiving medical attention. By bringing care directly to the people, the funds are bridging the gap between disaster and recovery. Preventing disease outbreaks is another priority. Flooded areas often become breeding grounds for waterborne diseases, such as cholera, diarrhea, and typhoid. Stagnant water also increases the risk of mosquito-borne illnesses like malaria and dengue fever. Emergency resources are being used to distribute clean water, sanitation kits, and mosquito nets to reduce these risks. Health workers are also conducting awareness campaigns to teach families how to protect themselves from infections, emphasizing hygiene practices even in the most difficult living conditions. Local hospitals and clinics, already stretched before the floods, are now facing more pressure than ever. Many facilities are overcrowded, with patients lying on floors and in hallways due to a lack of beds. Emergency funds are helping to provide temporary field hospitals and expand the capacity of existing ones. These additional spaces allow more patients to be treated and reduce the burden on exhausted health staff. Supporting local facilities is crucial because they remain at the center of community health even after international aid teams leave. Health workers themselves are under severe stress, working long hours with limited resources, while also coping with the loss of their own homes and families. Part of the emergency support is being directed toward training and equipping additional staff, as well as offering psychological support to those on the front lines. Without healthy and motivated health workers, no relief program can succeed. By investing in their well-being, the funds ensure that care continues to reach those who need it most. Restoring health services after a disaster is not just about treating immediate injuries and illnesses, it is also about building resilience for the future. By strengthening hospitals, supporting clinics, and preventing outbreaks, the emergency funds lay the groundwork for long-term recovery. Communities that receive proper healthcare in the aftermath of floods are better prepared to rebuild their lives and protect themselves from future crises. Health is the foundation of recovery, and ensuring its restoration gives survivors not only the strength to survive today, but also the hope to thrive tomorrow. Beyond urgent relief, the long-term recovery of flood-affected communities depends on rebuilding the foundations of daily life. One of the most important areas of focus is the repair of schools that were destroyed or severely damaged during the floods. Thousands of children have been forced out of classrooms, not only disrupting their education but also removing the sense of routine and stability that schools provide. Reopening schools gives children a safe space to learn, interact with friends, and begin returning to normal life. Education is also a source of hope for families, reminding them that despite their losses, the future of their children can still be secure. Farmers have been among the hardest hit by the floods, as entire fields of crops were submerged and destroyed. For many, their only source of income has vanished overnight. Livestock, which serves as both food and livelihood, has also been swept away by the water. This loss is devastating, as agriculture is the backbone of rural communities in Pakistan. Without assistance, farmers cannot replant, feed their families, or support their villages. Helping them recover is not just about individual households, but about restoring the food supply and economic stability for the wider region. Restoring livelihoods is essential for communities to rebuild with dignity. Many families depend on small shops, markets, or trades that were washed away during the disaster. Emergency funds are helping people restart their businesses, purchase equipment, and return to work. By creating opportunities for families to earn an income again, these programs reduce dependency on aid and encourage self-reliance. Work provides not only financial stability but also a sense of purpose and strength that helps communities recover emotionally as well as materially. Schools also play an important role in protecting children from the long-term effects of trauma. When children are left idle in camps or temporary shelters, they face risks of exploitation, child labor, or even permanent dropout from the education system. By repairing classrooms and providing learning materials, education becomes a shield against these dangers. Teachers, too, are given the opportunity to return to their roles, offering guidance and stability in times of uncertainty. In this way, schools contribute to healing entire communities, not just individual students. Rebuilding agriculture is another priority. Farmers need seeds, tools, and fertilizers to begin replanting their fields once the waters recede. Livestock programs are also being launched to replace animals lost in the floods, ensuring that families have access to milk, meat, and income. Training in more resilient farming techniques is being introduced to prepare communities for future disasters. By supporting farmers, aid programs restore the food chain from the ground up, ensuring that entire populations can once again rely on local produce rather than emergency handouts.
livelihood restoration is not limited to agriculture alone. Crafts people, small business owners and laborers are all being given opportunities to recover their trades. Microgrants and small loans help individuals restart shops, buy tools or rebuild workshops. This economic activity revives local markets, allowing communities to trade, interact, and slowly return to normal patterns of life. When people can provide for themselves, they regain their independence and dignity, reducing the psychological burden of relying solely on aid. These recovery efforts remind us that true relief is not just about survival but also about rebuilding lives with hope and resilience. Repairing schools ensures that children continue to learn, restoring livelihoods brings back stability, and helping farmers rebuild their fields restores food security. Together, these steps strengthen communities for the future and create the foundation for long-term recovery. By supporting education, agriculture, and work, the emergency response extends beyond temporary relief to lasting renewal, giving people the tools to stand on their own once again. International cooperation has always been at the heart of humanitarian response, and the floods in Pakistan highlight this truth more than ever. The sheer scale of destruction is beyond the capacity of one country to handle alone, no matter how prepared it might be. When millions are displaced and vital infrastructure is washed away, the collective support of the global community becomes essential. The emergency funds represent more than just financial assistance, they are a symbol of solidarity, showing that nations are willing to come together in the face of shared human suffering. The commitment of the global community reflects an understanding that disasters in one part of the world affect us all. In an interconnected world, no nation can remain untouched by the consequences of climate change, economic instability, and humanitarian crisis. By helping Pakistan today, the international community demonstrates a principle of shared responsibility. This response reminds us that the bonds of humanity must extend beyond borders, religions, or politics, because suffering knows no boundary. The support arriving in Pakistan comes from many directions. Governments are contributing through financial aid, food assistance, and rescue equipment. International organizations are coordinating logistics, sending health workers, and setting up temporary shelters. Charities and non-governmental organizations are mobilizing volunteers and resources from around the world. Even ordinary citizens in distant countries are donating to relief efforts, showing that compassion is not limited to official institutions, but lives in the hearts of people everywhere.